Well, what's up, you beautiful people? This is Gary Horn, and this is Pro Wrestling, the podcast celebrating the past, present, future, history, legacy, and tradition of the greatest sport of all time, professional wrestling. And I'm joined, as always, by This is Will Martin. Hey, Will.
Good evening, everyone. I'm down here on the bottom tonight. This is new. I like it. We'll try it out.
Oh, yeah. And the new top is the Doc. Rob.
He got promoted.
Well, come on now. You know, one thing that
I'll work my way back up.
One thing that Josephus stood for was to thine own self be true. So let me fix this. Boom.
Which is also why we were fashionably late per usual. So
yes,
welcome all you new people. We're late.
This is par for the course.
Yeah, but thanks for everybody who's jumped in here. We appreciate all of you. Thanks for hanging out with us. Always grateful to all of the hashtag NWA fam, especially on a day like today. And if I don't sound it's like really somber right this second, and we'll see how we get throughout. But it's because today's a celebration more so than anything. It's a celebration of a great man that we all have stories about and things that inspired us and things that we loved. All day today is just a hangout and discussion, just a fireside chat, talking about the man Joseph Hudson, who unfortunately passed away this past week, and he leaves behind a young son and a family. Just a heartbreaking story to hear. And I guess I don't really even know how to dive into that, Rob. What do you think? Like, it's tough to talk about.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I mean, you've got a whole spectrum of emotions, because when I think of Josephus, I want to laugh, I want to cry, all that stuff rushes over me at the same time. For those of us who really love this sport and love this promotion and who have known Josephus and have interacted with him, and we're just marks, but for those who were blessed to have interacted with him on a personal level, this one hits hard. It's been a tough year, man. I mean, with Brody Lee and Shad and like you said so well, Gary, the other day, it was either you or Will, one of you made the post that these men are all, we know them as entertainers and wrestlers and combatants, but they're also dads. And in each of these situations, they leave behind kids and family, and it's really, really, really tough. But I'm telling you, at any given point, thinking about Josephus, I could laugh or I could do the exact opposite, man. It's a tough week.
Yeah, it's definitely been a tough year, and we talk about it all the time, Rob. You and I, just as dads of younger kids, these things kind of take on a different meaning. And I mean, that's the part that just kind of, ripped my heart out. It's just how many times over the past year that, fathers of young kids, have been taken too soon. And it's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow. I'm glad we're doing this. I'm glad we're going to celebrate him, because Josephus, to me, was, and we can all tell our Josephus stories at some point, but he was one of the first touch points for me outside of Nick Aldis when it came to me diving into the NWA, where I was like, yeah, this is my thing. Like, this is creative, this is performance art, and this is what I want to be a fan of. So it's definitely been a tough week.
Man, just to touch on that comment about performance art. I mean, we talk about this all the time about wrestling being the penultimate form of art, and it draws in so many things, so many allegory, Greek and Roman mythology, theology, philosophy, music, visual art, obviously the combat arts. And you want to talk about a guy that had it all. I mean, this guy had it all. This guy wasn't a 5-tool talent. He was a freaking 100-tool talent. He had tools we didn't even know existed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not even trying to sound melodramatic here. I'm just saying the stuff that every time he talked, it's like Aaron Stevens. Aaron Stevens is so intelligent. Every time he talks, I'm like, man, he's saying something that I should get, but I'm not quite sure what it is. And I always loved, and I know we're going to get into more of this, and we've got an agenda to drive down. But I always loved Halloween, man, because Josephus was such a fan of cinema, and especially like really bad B movies and cult movies. He had this just amazing collection of video on Beta, VHS, Laserdisc, all this stuff. He's got prints. You know, the collection that his son is going to inherit is an amazing collection, but you know, it's like, man, the guy was so in tune. He was I've come across a lot of creative people as an educator, as a professional. You cannot match creativity when it comes to Josephus, and this guy was a 100-tool athlete, man.
Yeah, that you're talking about that B movie stuff. I mean, that I can say right off the bat is just one of my stories for Josephus is that for Joseph, I guess I should say, is that I've been lucky enough to go to every power taping and got to go to Crockett Cup, and he was just I don't know, man. He was just like one of the people, like you said, guys that just stood out to me. And so I think our first interaction probably happened at Crockett Cup, and I just remember meeting him at a pre-party beforehand, and then him being really friendly and getting to talk to him. And we just kind of somewhere in there, it hit off with the B movie thing. That was like the thing we first actually clicked on, because I do the other podcast, Cinema Shock, and so that's all we talk about is cult cinema, like just those kind of movies. And this was a guy who, you know, for all the knowledge I think I have on it, this guy has collections, like just hundreds of these kind of movies, and he knew every single movie you could think of, like every single one he had seen or heard of or whatever. And so we would talk, and it later progressed from there to like go into the tapings. We would end up talking more, and that it would always track back to that. And so even through social media, we would interact on discussions about these movies when a new movie came out. Like, I mean, one of the pictures I just threw up there was from Mandy, the Nicolas Cage movie. And I mean, we had a whole conversation about that, but he takes it to the next level, as you can see. Like, it's just, he's going to dress like the dude. Like he's just on a different level, man. Just like you said, but that's one of the things I will always remember. And you talk about a 100-tool athlete. I mean, this is why we know him as Josephus, and I guess officially this is the first time on the show we're acknowledging Josephus was the question mark. We all played into it, and just real quick, that's another thing I can tell you about him, by the way, is that he never let that up. Like when you saw him at the power tapings, like I could have had a conversation with him an hour ahead of that. But if he came out as the question mark and was in the lobby of GPB Studios, like selling his wares or whatever, he was the question mark. It was never not the question mark. And it would be me and him standing there. And we know, like we have to know, but he didn't even acknowledge. Like, he's just like, just like, oh, you funny bearded man, hello. And and he would carny me, because he had the drawing. I have it over here, like the big Josephus drawing that's like autographed, and he was selling it for like $30. And it's not like the most fantastical drawing, by the way. But I mean, I would come out, I interacted with him all the time, but then I would come out and he's like, why you no ever buy Mongrovian merchandise? And I'm like, I'm sorry, man. I'll catch you next time. But then the next day he would be like, you said catch me next time, but you have not paid me for Mongrovian merchandise. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, hey, man, I don't have any cash. I'm sorry, dude. He's like, oh, I have Mongrovian Venmo. And I'm like, all right, dude, I'm going to buy your picture. And so he would just let you have it. But he never let that off. Like I don't know. I just always thought that was interesting. When I'd see him as Josephus, I remember on the debut of the question mark, my wife and I are standing in line like for the autograph session, and Josephus, like I had messaged him and it was like, hey man, are you going to come out and like say hello and blah, blah, blah. Cause he was not in the autograph room. So he came out, he's like obviously covered in sweat and his hair's all messed up. And he comes out and he's like, oh, hey guys, I wanted to come say hey. And I'm like, hey man. And he's just like, yeah, sorry, I wasn't sure if I was going to get up here. I was doing catering all night. And so I haven't talked to you guys. And I was like, oh yeah, doing catering. And okay, so you don't know anything about the question mark. And he's just like, no, what? Like the symbol? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know. He's like, no, I got this chicken in and I've been dealing with that. I heard there was a new guy, but I don't know anything about him. Like, I haven't had a chance to talk to him, and just like never let it go. And so I always appreciated that about him though.
Man, I've got this, we had this great conversation. I've got to find a way. Like there's things that I just cherish now. I always cherish them. You guys know, I mean, we've got videos of us for me just like completely marking out to Josephus. I've been on record for a long time saying Josephus was, if not one of my favorites, maybe my favorite talent, out there. But I have this just amazing extended conversation with him on Facebook. I've got to find a way. Surely there's an app or something to let me like download this conversation into a PDF or something so I can keep it forever, But just we'd have conversations about, the role of technology in education. He was so concerned about the state of public education. Of course, he loved his son. Great. And his son is so smart, so, technologically savvy. And he would say, I'm always like a step behind him. I was like, yeah, I know, man, because that's, technology acquisition accesses the language acquisition device. It's like learning a language, and whatever device that is in our brain, it disappears at like 12 or 13 years old. So like Soren, son, or Josephus' son, his name's Soren. He will acquire a level of fluency that we will never acquire. Like we can be very competent, very good, but we're always going to be a step behind these kids. And so he was just always concerned about that. So we had multiple conversations about, instructional technology. And of course he was a former seminary student. Faith is something that's very important to me. And he was always, it was very deeply spiritual and always searching and, looking for existential answers and answers outside of himself and even outside this world. And we had lots of conversations. We'd even planned, like we were supposed to meet up here in a month or so in Nashville where he lived. And we were going to, I was like, hey, I'm going to buy the first round of drinks. And he was like, I'm not a drinker, but you can get me a cherry Coke. And I'm like, man, I got you cherry Coke all day long. So I really look forward to that. And it didn't happen, but I'm just so thankful for the time we had. And another thing real quick, just looking back on some of the content that we've recently put out, my brother and I, we went up to Bristol last night to see Thunder Rosa wrestle. We listened to our podcast and our first history podcast. Very, very good, I might say. But I was so thrilled, man. I was like, man, we talked about Josephus in this. And then we did a house call episode where we talked about Josephus being so important and being a major contender even now. And I'm just so, Josephus he was one that very, very quirky, very, he had some peculiarities about him. So I don't know if he ever listened to that because he had a way of really compartmentalizing his life and keeping things in proper perspective and all that. But I know that before he left us, we had chances that weren't provoked by anything other than respect for him, to talk good about him and to talk about how important he was to our community, our NWA fam. And I'm going to tell you, man, when you look at the major personalities that made Power a success, that made the 10 pounds of gold a success, you've got obviously Aldis, you've got, Tim Storm, but you got to put Josephus right in that mix. He is just as important and just as key to any of that as anybody. And without Josephus, there is no 10 pounds of gold. There is no Power.
Yeah. Eric, just here in the chat, just mentioning watching some of his pre-Power taping promos. He could take a video camera, go out somewhere and make pure gold. I remember the tapings running long one day and the question mark just running out in the middle of the studio and just running through the crowd and like interacting with the fans and just, it was a beautiful thing. Like, I mean, the guy just had a natural talent for that. And I'll give my one sob thing that I won't touch on this too much, but I do think it's worth saying that, you guys keep talking about the the parent thing, but one of the things that he and I did talk about, and that I know that he cared about his son, was that, and this is a little inside baseball for normally what I talk about on here, but the wife and I are considering adoption right now and like talking about those things. And he and I would actually discuss that a little bit. And somehow I remember just like actually getting in a moment of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is here, but where I was like, one thing I constantly worry about is just being a good dad and not messing that up. And he told me, he said, Gary, you're like that. The idea that you're having that thought right now is 100 times better than most. He's like, if you have that desire to be a good dad, you're going to be a good dad. It is like my main goal. And it will work if you want it to work. And that always stood out to me. And it was a big deal at a time where I was feeling a little full of self-doubt, I think, about the thing, but it was really reassured. And I did not mean to get so soft on you so quick. But anyway, so that's all of mine out of the way right now. I think I just wanted to unload all of my Joseph stories up front so I can hear everybody else just do it. And I don't have to worry about what happens to me on this live stream.
Man, go ahead, Will. Go ahead, Will.
No, I mean, he's right, man. I mean, the advice he gave you is spot on. And I watched a few. If you go on YouTube and you look up Josephus, there's a few different, pretty short, like documentaries about him. Not his complete life, obviously, but like certain parts of his life. And there was one that I watched earlier today that was showing him interacting with his son when his son was probably between 1 and 2 years old. I mean, he was, not an infant, but not yet really mobile and stuff. And I mean, you can see in his interactions, like, he's just like us, man. He loves his kids, would do anything for them. And it's, like I said, it's one of those things that it's like, it kind of brings people together, even if you don't know each other. You know what I mean, Rob? I feel like that too. So I mean, when he's talking to you and he can hear, in your voice, the desire there for that, he's exactly right. But my Josephus story really starts with 10 pounds of gold. And for me, even before, I had known of Nick Aldis, because when I first got into NWA, he was already champ. He, was a big name. I knew who he was. But I started at the beginning of 10 pounds of gold because I said, well, I'm not going to start with power. I'm going to start with the very beginning. I think, Gary, you had kind of inspired me to do that because that's what you did with this show when it was called This is the NWA. So I went back and, at the beginning, you're exposed to Tim Storm as champion. Obviously, he grew very near and dear to me through those first few episodes. But one of the first adversaries he faces is not Nick Aldis. It's Josephus. And I remember the exact moment. And if you guys remember, I mean, it's less than a year ago, but it feels like it was a lifetime ago. But when I was documenting, before I was even on the show, I was documenting my kind of walk through 10 pounds of gold. And I remember filming my reaction to the Josephus episodes. And the moment where I kind of had that click, like I mentioned a minute ago, is when he's on his knees in front of the Britney Spears star on the Hollywood, Boulevard or Walk of Fame or whatever. And he's, talking about the Britney path and just all that stuff off the top of his head. And I was so pleased that actually on Instagram, David Lagana shared a behind the scenes picture of that moment of Lagana down, holding the camera down, looking up at Josephus at that star. And that was just the moment that in my head, I was like, this guy's more than just like your regular, like, wrestler. And I don't mean that to throw shade on any regular wrestlers. I just mean, as Rob said earlier, like, this guy's got something special. He's got things in his tool bag that are outside of the normal scope of requirements for a professional wrestler. And we saw that fleshed out. I mean, for the short time that we had Carneyland, I mean, his spots on Carneyland were consistently the highlights of the show, and then I think, Nick Aldis has even mentioned it over the past couple of days, but just his contribution to, those retro commercials and things like that. I mean, this guy was a creative mind that wasn't looking necessarily to make a name for himself. He was just wanting an outlet for it. And he wanted to, he viewed, there was a couple of those documentaries I was watching earlier where he literally said, and Rob, you say this all the time, but it's the same exact mentality where he's like, he likes performance art. He likes music. He likes reading, very well read. I mean, he's got stacks and stacks of books behind him every time, you see him talking in his home. And to him, pro wrestling is the same thing. It's an art. It's a story. And you guys know how big I am on storylines and characters and things like that. And this was a guy who could do it better than almost anyone else. And so it's a tough one. It's a tough one because I didn't have the opportunity, as you guys did, to actually meet him. But he was literally at the very top of my list of like, man, if we get back going, this pandemic goes away, like that's one of the guys I wanted to hang out with. And so, yeah, it's tough.
Well, guys, we're going to have plenty of stuff to talk about tonight. We're going to go through and talk about, we got our historian, Doc Stinson, over here. It's going to help us with the career of Joseph Hudson, and we're going to talk a lot about that. We're going to hear from some other folks, some of you guys, some of the fans, and some of his peers. Now, we expect some people to show up live. We've got some video from others. Some, understandably, you have to know, did send their regards to the show and that sort of thing, but did not feel ready to speak on something like this publicly or wanted to get their words together to do their own thing. So also understandable, but just stick with us and we'll get through this together and just celebrate the life of the man. And we'll try this professionally as I can to share things here. And not all of it's going to go smoothly. I mean, obviously, we've got these pictures and stuff that I can throw up, but they don't take up the whole screen. So you can weirdly see like me over here. And so there's that awkwardness. But they cover up Rob, and that's what's important. I think that Joseph would have liked that. And so anyway, I say all that to say that we've got plenty of stuff here, and I don't know a better way to start, I guess, right off the bat. And Rob, I didn't get a chance to get as much together from the power clips as I wanted to, but maybe that's for the best because we know now that all of the power stuff is taken off of the YouTube channel and stuff. Rob secretly has them all on some hard drive somewhere, but we don't want to get NWA or ourselves in trouble.
Those were purchased. I bought those from Maureen Tracy through proper legal channels.
Okay. All right. Well, no,
Rob still buys DVDs, is what he said.
Bro, DVDs. I got it on beta, bro. And true Josephus.
I was about to say.
I got it on
That's
beta.
only because they didn't sell it on VHS. But yeah, you had to transfer it. Rob has to take his DVDs, have them transferred over.
Yeah.
Well, we did get one video from one of our friends of the show from the Nation show, Joe Laban. I think I'm pronouncing that right. He said it out loud on this video, and so I'm trying to adjust because I was definitely saying it wrong. But it's a good way to start, I think, on this one. So we'll run his video now if I can properly do so. Does it have a video track? So no, sorry, Joe, that's not going to happen right now. So, all right. Well, then what I originally was going to do anyway is that we all know Josephus first and foremost. Everything Will was just talking about, and I threw this together. Let's see if this works.
There's a buzz going around about the NWA because William Patrick Corgan issued an open challenge for anyone to face as champion. Friday night in Clarksville, Tennessee. His champion's going to be there. I'm going to go ahead and accept that challenge. We know his champion. We know Tim Storm. We've all seen the videos. We've read his article in Rolling Stone. It's a family man. He's a grandfather. He's a school teacher. The name is Josephus. Now I'm the guy looking for a little recognition, looking for a little fame, looking for a little gold. I've been studying your matches. I've been studying your matches, not the ones happening right now, but the ones in the past. I know how to be old school. I know where to look to find your weaknesses, Mr. Storm. Mr. Storm, the school teacher. Do you know what I am? I'm a professor. I teach at the university level. You know what that is compared to being a school teacher? It's like fine French cuisine compared to McDonald's. Mr. Storm, I have your picture right here. Mr. Timothy Storm. You know the problem with it is you kind of look like my dad. You kind of remind me of my dad. And my dad, let me tell you about him. He used to try to score 6 packs of beer while I was sitting in the backyard eating dirt. That's who my father was, Tim. That's who my father was, and that's who you remind me of. And I don't think you've ever faced a man like Josephus. And Friday night, you're going to get your chance to meet the ultra-violence that you've never been looking for, Tim. You've never been looking for a man like Josephus, but he's found you. I found you, Tim. Friday night, I'm going to knock you off that mountaintop.
Well, that is how a lot of us were introduced to Josephus. At least myself, I definitely was. That was my introduction to the man leading up to that match taking place at Championship Wrestling from Hollywood between Tim Storm and Josephus. And it was epic, man. And Josephus went crazy, injured Tim Storm. And that was just the beginning of their feud.
Yeah. There is a whole wealth of Josephus even prior to that. I mean, this is, Josephus talks about, and it's public knowledge. I'm not saying anything and, letting people behind a veil that you shouldn't look behind or anything, but about the whole father yod concept and this and that. Before Josephus was Josephus the Enlightened One, he was Josephus Brody. And, he obviously the resemblance between he and the great Bruiser Brody is uncanny. They both have similar size, similar intellect. I think Josephus was probably a better student than Bruiser Brody was. Bruiser Brody, I think, was kicked out of school and this and that. But Josephus was an academic. And, so much of why, I mean, Josephus is important to me on his own merit, but so much of why he's important to me has to do with my kids, like you guys. And my daughters, all my kids have been raised in a wrestling household. We've had wrestling our whole lives. And one of my great friends on earth is the Nature Boy Paulie. We're actually next door neighbors. He lives right down the road. And we would book Josephus to come in. At the time, he was married to Benita, and they would come in and they just had this great, great look and just really enigmatic personality and all that. And I remember Piper was so little at the time, she was afraid of him. But the talks that we'd have back there behind closed doors, I remember we'd book Raven. Raven was booked one night, and Josephus just admired Raven so much. And I remember them having such a great conversation. And but he was such an academic and such an intellect, and most of our conversations that we had behind the stage had nothing to do with wrestling. It was just about, philosophical issues and this and that. But I wanted to point out that Josephus, let's not forget, Josephus is a former NWA champion, not an NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, but he did hold the NWA Southern Heavyweight Championship, the Saw version of the title. And when you look back at this particular championship, this is a championship that dates back at least to 2010. And some of the men that have held this are Tennessee mainstays, like guys like Chris Michaels. You're going to like this name, Gary. Hammerjack held this championship. Lone Star, Alan Shepard, guys that Wolfie D, people that are in this. You saw Danny Dills there behind the microphone. He's a tried and true guy, very steeped in the tradition in Tennessee. Some of my really good friends, again, Paul Lee, Lex Lee, Kevin Kaufman. These are guys that have worked with him. Gary Valiant, who we saw together in Grimsley, Tennessee, when we went up to see that show. Shane Williams, King Shane Williams, who was in a world championship title match against Nick Aldis. But Josephus Brody defeated Gary Valiant for the title, and he defeated Cliff Compton for the title. Or excuse me, Cliff Compton for the title. Crimson has held this particular version of the title. It's, Hot Rod Biggs, Chase Owens, Jason Kincaid, Lance Erickson. You got a lot of names that have held this championship. But before we ever got to the enlightened one, the Father Yod inspired version of Josephus, which was many of our favorite version, Josephus had already established a footprint on the wrestling world, and it was like he was born to do it. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, he just, it's so weird. I can't imagine. How much do you know, about how he just, I don't know, just how did he stumble into pro wrestling is what I would want to know. He just interesting that a guy with this, again, this is not meant as an insult, but like you said, just the intellect, that sort of thing. I mean, you even look at a guy you could see why he and William Patrick Corgan are friends, similar in their style of intellect, their interest in poetry and books, and just this knowledge that's not usually what's attributed to professional wrestling. And then you get into professional wrestling and you find out a lot of these guys are this way, but it's just interesting to know. I mean, is it just that he was just 6'3" and 280 pounds?
No, I mean, we've had this conversation. He was always and we've said this on some of our other, productions and publications and podcasts and whatnot. I think wrestling appeals to the whole spectrum of people, but we think of, and again, this is not meant in an insult at all, because we're all wrestling fans here, but wrestling has this perception because of the way it's presented and because of the caricatures of it, that it's some kind of crass, really low life form of entertainment. But wrestling has always appealed to very educated, learned people who are interested in literature and philosophy. I mean, we have a whole 1.5 hours just talking about wrestling as philosophy and as literary genre. And that's always appealed to Josephus, who's always been an intelligent person and driven by intellectual pursuits. But he grew up a fan of Jerry Lawler, of Mid-South Wrestling. Obviously, at some point, he crossed paths with Dirty Dutch Mantell. And, it did not hurt, certainly, that he was, nearly 7 feet tall and weighed a zillion pounds and had that great look and obviously the creativity and all those various tools that he carried. But, he was a wrestling fan from very early memory, and he always respected the sport as performance, as literary genre.
Well, one of those documentaries that I was watching on YouTube earlier today, he actually says, and I don't know if this is truth or if this is a character story, but he said that he actually started wrestling because he and his brother were going to write a screenplay or something about wrestling, about wrestlers or something like that. And he thought, well, I might as well train to get a good idea of what it's actually like. And then he just ended up doing it. So, I mean, I that's not outside the realm of possibility for a guy like that who, is there because he wants to create art. He wants to to be the realest representation of that if he's going to create, something and have that integrity. So I thought that was an interesting story.
Very interesting. And I'll give a moment here to just some of the emails that we got, just quickly, just to throw those in the middle here. We got one from Tony Priscello, who says, super creative guy. We drove to high spots from Nashville, shot all the Danny Deals commercials. Oh, I think this is Danny Deals. Yeah, sorry. It just hit me. So that's why I had this one open, because you had mentioned Danny Deals being in that clip. And he said, yeah, super creative guy. We drove to high spots from Nashville, shot all the Danny Deals commercials. Drove back the same day and cackled the whole way listening to David Hasselhoff songs.
Nice.
That was thanks for that memory, Tony. And also worth mentioning here are Linda Lane Martinez. I saw you in the chat earlier. She says here, thank you for dedicating today's show to Joseph. I look forward to tuning in. If you can, please promote Joseph's last interview he did on February 2nd, 2021 with his close friend at PDSMIX on Twitch. His fans will love and appreciate this interview, as he was so many other things besides being a talented and beloved wrestler. Joseph was a dear friend of mine. I was blessed to have known him the past few years, and his friendship breathed new life into me. I will never forget him. My condolences to his entire family and friends and fans mourning his passing. Thank you, Orlinda.
Yeah, that's an episode of and I think Lavi, our good friend Lavi from Italy, shared this. This is the beard show, and he talks about some of the great bearded men in history, and it's a great show, man. And they talk about all kinds of things, and film comes up. But gosh, man, I love this interview, and I've got it. But what I love is that there's a point where I'm, he had told me that it was going to be on there, and it's like, man, I'm not going to miss this for anything. And I was in there, and at one point in the show. And I don't, Lord, I'm not trying to make this about me at all, but this is just something that like touches me. Like at one point in the show, the host asked, who is this Rob Stinson guy? And gosh, man, he said, that's my friend from wrestling. He called me his friend, and I love that, man.
Yeah. It's a beautiful story. So many of you guys sent comments and had things to say about Joseph, and we appreciate every bit of it. And I'm hoping that a lot of these I can kick them into gear to play. But let's see if we can pull up another one here real quick.
A couple of days ago, wrestling lost one of its brightest stars, in my opinion. Joseph Hudson, a.k.a. Josephus, a.k.a. the question mark, was one of the best and brightest characters in wrestling that I've seen in a very long time. This is very hard for me to do because I really, really enjoyed the character of Josephus, the twisted cult member, and even more so the question mark with his Mongrovian karate. This has been a hard week for everybody. Wrestling lost a great entertainer, but the world lost a father, a friend, and a loved one. This was really hard for me to do. I didn't think it would be this hard for me to say something. I just want to say rest in peace. We love you and thank you so much. I wish I'd have gotten to see you in person. Rest in peace, man. Thank you for everything.
And that is James Lawrence, lifelong hashtag NWA fam member. And despite how he sounded there, very picky about his wrestling. So if Josephus managed to win him over, then he was doing something right. James Lawrence don't play around, and comedy characters are definitely not even usually his thing. But see, he got into the question mark as well. So that's the power of what Joseph Hudson was doing there in the ring, I think.
Yeah, James Lawrence is not picky; he's refined. He's got a very
is that what it is?
Selective taste. It's like Josephus said in that promo. It's like comparing McDonald's to fine French cuisine.
All right. Well, we'll jump ahead here, and I had done a few of these things trying to get into Josephus' character leading up to that Tim Storm match and that sort of thing. It all leads into one of my favorite moments in the NWA. But before we get there, I guess we'll go to the next thing. So what eventually happens here is Josephus goes on a tear, and I actually didn't get these clips, Rob. I was trying to find them in the thing. But, Josephus hurt his eye in one of these Tim Storm encounters, and he lost 3% vision in that left eye. And that was a very big deal to him. And so
that was one of my favorite. That was the other, that was the other part. I remember it being like brilliant. I loved it.
Oh yeah. That was the very first thing that stood out. I was like, this guy's ridiculous. This is awesome.
In the best way.
William Patrick Corrigan. And just complaining about how he's handicapped now.
And that just goes to show you how much wool Tim Storm has got pulled all over your eyes. That he's convinced you he's America's sweetheart and he's this great guy and all that. But then he would deliberately and ruthlessly impair this man's vision in a world-class sport where the margin of skill level is so small. That 3% is critical. So he is, Josephus he had a point. He had a point. That's all I'm going to say. I love Tim Storm, but shame on you, Tim Storm.
He knows. You know what you did, Tim.
You know what you did. You know what you did.
I just remember that comment like leading me down this like thought spiral of like, how do you measure percentage of sight? Like, how is that officially diagnosed? And it was just brilliant. I mean, it makes you think, and that's the kind of stuff that's great in this sport.
Well, needless to say, with the injury, basically the next steps for Josephus ended up being that he would, and we can always bounce back and forth, Rob, but he basically ends up getting a 45-day from a suspension from William Patrick Corrigan because of his abuse of Tim Storm, and wants a rematch with Tim Storm. But anyway, we'll just we'll show this clip to kind of cover some of that, just to show you what happened.
I may have made some mistakes recently, and I had to go back to my roots, had to go back to my foundation. I had to go back to my spiritual advisor. And she is here for the next 45 days to help me remember enlightenment, to help me remember that all is a path of love.
Of self. It's filled with cows grazing upon the way. Nature brings us back into oneness with who we are. It's a quote from my spiritual advisor.
This is because I am my own detachment. I am my own nothingness. Simply because I am my own mediator between me and me, all objectivity disappears. Being in nothingness, Jean-Paul Sartre. You see, this is what the period in contemplation has allowed me to do. I'm tapping into me again. I'm tapping into my own happiness, my own bliss. My spiritual advisor was right. This is exactly what I needed. I needed 45 days to tap into me. The spiritual advisor knows me better than anyone on this planet. I love you, Timothy. So you want to get retribution for what Josephus has done to you. But you know what? I'm happy. I'm full of bliss. I'm full of love. My spiritual advisor knows that I love to read, knows that I love to write poetry and compose music. There isn't anything that you could do, Tim, to make me leave this period of contemplation. Well, there actually is one thing you could do, one small little thing you can do. You want to fight Josephus for all the wrongs that I've done to you. Well, how about this? I find a place for us to fight. You just have to show up.
Nothing is more important to me than the NWA World's Heavyweight title. So no, Josephus, I will not give up that rematch, and I still want an opportunity to fight you anywhere that you want to pick.
We've been to this location before. We've scouted it out. It's a place that may not be familiar to anyone else other than Tim Storm and his family. It's sacred to you, Timothy. You've embraced your family. Your little 19 grandchildren have sat on your lap in this very house. You've opened Christmas presents here. You've had Thanksgiving dinner here. This is the closest we've ever been. Because if Timothy Storm won't listen to us, won't follow our way, then maybe his daughter will. Maybe his daughter will listen and want bliss and enlightenment. And I think it's time for his daughter to meet my spiritual advisor.
Oh, thanks for unmuting me.
Sorry, I muted you because during that video I could hear you like rustling around, so I was like, "Oh, I'll mute you."
I was trying to find a bottle opener, just peek behind the curtain. Yeah, so we tell a lot of great stories about Josephus, but there was definitely a dark side there. As a Jedi warrior in the chat saying, this got personal real quick. As you can imagine, Tim Storm's not going to be happy about the fact that Josephus and the spiritual advisor showed up at his daughter's house. I encourage you all, well, as soon as you're able to again, and I'm sure that you will be, when you could go back and watch the 10 Pounds of Gold series, starting from the beginning. There is nothing wrong with that. Also, the NWA store, when it's online, that is also a great place. I think you can buy the whole series there, and they've got it on DVD. So awesome stuff. You got to check it out. There was some good storytelling that you got way before Power even started. There was a lot of fun to be had in the NWA universe that Billy Corgan and Dave Lagana were putting together there.
Man, I had this idea for a long time to collect to compile the collected sayings of Josephus, and put it out there, because that 45 days of contemplation, man, he was putting out some of his best stuff, man. I'm talking about that quote, "On the long, lonely road of self, there are cows grazing upon the way." I mean, think about it. Boom.
I literally, what I love about that is if you go back into the old episodes of this podcast, back when it was This Is the NWA podcast, when we do like a walkthrough of the 10 Pounds of Gold series, and that is like the go-to right at the beginning, where I was like, we've got to dwell on this for a moment. Like the cows grazing along the way.
Man, Fortson and I don't, when Adam Rotella was on this show, he would do this. What was it called? Stranger was called NWA.
Oh yeah,
Strength.
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
He would invite fans on there, and he had fans like he had like Sandoval and I think Dawn of Wrestling came on there, and he had Ringside Ran RJ. Then he had me coming there. He had Wrestling Days, but Fortson was scheduled to come on there. Fortson is a beloved member of our family. Of course, he's a big critic of Strictly Business, so we don't talk about that topic. But we had this whole build up to him coming onto that show, and it was built around the kingdom of Josephus. And at that point, we had talked about that Tanya and I had been Kingdomite missionaries to Mongrovia and all this. But we built this whole stuff so much so that even Josephus started interacting with us and like correcting our theology, and it's like telling us to put our differences aside for the sake of the kingdom. I mean, he was having so much fun with it, playing along with this fan interaction that we were doing through social media. It was really cool, man. But those quotes.
I don't want to speak for like a lot of wrestlers, and I suppose that it depends on your character too. But that is one really cool part about Joseph, that he really dove in. Like he relished the opportunity to live in that character and the universe he was creating, and just seemed to just really appreciate and go along with the fans that wanted to live in it and just enjoy it with him. It's so interesting to me. Like the first time I met Dr. Rob or saw Dr. Rob, I remember him at least, was his whole family showing up to the NWA power tapings dressed as students of Mongrovian karate. And so that actually was what turned me around on the question mark. Like, I was into the question mark the first time. Like, when he first walked out, I'm not gonna lie, I was with the crowd that popped huge for the question mark. There's plenty of stories of that. But after a while, it was like, okay, but how seriously do we take this guy? Like, it's kind of ridiculous, right? Come on, everybody. But I don't know, some reason seeing Piper and Petra come in with Rob and Tanya in the Mongrovian karate stuff, there was a side of me that it's like it had to be reminded, hey, this isn't just about you getting old and jaded and the wrestling you think it's supposed to be, and the seriousness, and everybody's got to be, just as real as possible. Like, there was a part of you that started loving wrestling because of the characters that were involved in it. And it's time to remember that for the next generation too. And seeing you guys come in like that, it really like turned me back around to like, oh, wait a minute. This is still wrestling. This is what wrestling's all about, really. For it to survive, this is exactly what it needs, is a character like the question mark.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, my kids have grown up with wrestling. We've had it. I've been involved in the local promotions here, and that I've just been really blessed to do that. I'm not here trying to like tout my accolades, because I don't. I'm just a fan, but that happened to have a good friend that let me see behind the veil. But for Piper, Petra's still young. She's just it's not even a concept for her yet. But for Piper, question mark was her hook. Now by the time she was acquainted with the question mark, when the power episodes started coming out, we would have these events. We would sit down on Tuesday nights and watch this, the whole family. Then we would go in and watch Gary and Adam in the post show. It was a family event. It was important to us. Piper she's such a sweet kid, man. And I'm not under illusions about my kids. Don't get me wrong. Man, my kids can be sneaky and mean and do they're just like any kids, but Piper's very sweet, and she wants to do things with me, and she's really she really digs me, man. She thinks her old man's cool. That's gonna go away in a few years, but right now she thinks I'm pretty cool.
Soak it up.
so she especially when she comes from the middle school up to the high school where I'm at, she's gonna the coolness is gonna be gone. But right now she thinks I'm the doggone cock of the walk, man. You know, she thinks I'm the bee's knees. So she's into baseball because of me. But then she developed this interest into baseball. You know, so now she's a huge Braves fan in her own right, and she likes to get Braves shirts and she loves to watch it. She likes to go to the Chattanooga Lookouts here locally. With wrestling, she reveres Nick Aldis, Ric Flair, Thunder Rosa. When we talk about them, she's like, whoa, what? Question Mark, though, was her hook. Like, Question Mark was the one that let her that's the thing that opened her mind up to the fact that wrestling is this whole world outside of the community of Chattanooga, Tennessee. You know, that was the thing. And she really, something about it, man. Like the fact that he was this Mongrovian karate expert and, you know, this phenomenal warrior, but he was also very, you know, he had this comical aspect about him, and he all this real gentle aspect too, you know, that was like, you could tell, you know, as far as Mongrovians go, this was a pretty cool guy. This is a pretty good guy. He was a good guy. He had a sense of honor and all that, and that really hooked. And so when we got our first Power tickets, the whole idea of going in as Mongrovian students, that was her idea. It wasn't my idea. She was like, what if we went up and, you know, my wife Tanya, she's a second degree black belt in Taekwondo, so she practices. So, you know, the gi is no stranger to her. And
he's not wanting to tout his accolades, but you know, then he'll throw in like, and then I landed a hot wife who's a second degree black belt. I mean, anyway, but back to what I was saying,
which is why none of us like say really nasty things about Rob, because then he'll sick his wife on us. But
right, 100%.
But you know, she's like, oh wait, Aaron Stevens is wearing the same suit that Tanya wears and all that. She's like, what if we go to let's go up wearing our karate gis, you know, and all that. It's like, hold on, no. It's karate, first of all, not karate. and it's not called a gi, it's called a karate suit. I think that's what they call it. So
it's very different. There's a huge difference.
Big difference. So we went there, man, and that's how Gary and I met. You know, I mean, that's how Mass Fan and I met. Mass Fan and I, when I left, Maureen Tracy got me. You know, I didn't know I had a Twitter account, but what blew my mind was that we were in that audience for 10 minutes, man. And I started looking, I had like 6 followers on Twitter, you know, whatever. And I started seeing the little notification. And Maureen Tracy had tweeted the tweet that said, we have the greatest fans or whatever. And it was a picture of me and Tanya and Piper and Petra. And whatever it was, that hooked me, man. Like, I was like, wow, that's cool, man. The NWA just tweeted us, you know? And that night on the way home, Mass Fan and I had this great conversation and we became friends. And then, of course, Gary and I met, and Adam, and next thing you know, it's just like, for me, you know, watching something that I always respected and revered. Like I said, we revere this. The NWA in our house is reverential. That was from a distance, being in the Power tapings and through what Aldis was doing. It brought us up close. It made us feel like a family. And people who are in this hashtag NWA fan would tell you that there is a connection there. And front row, Polka Dot Pam, Heather Hunley, Mass Fan, Sandoval, Elder Sauer, not just that, but then the talent, the talent that embraced us. Nick Aldis, Thunder Rosa, Question Mark, Tom Latimer, it was just, it really created a true, intrinsic, genuine family. And Josephus was right at the center of all that,
Well, you mentioned a big name there that we want to give a moment to is Maureen Tracy, who's unfortunately no longer with the NWA, but she also was there at the beginning, just like Joseph Hudson was. One of the first people that we met that welcomed us into what we're calling the hashtag NWA fam. And she did send us something here, and so I'm going to give her a moment. We did promise some things from his peers, so here is Maureen.
This week, the world lost Joseph Hudson. Most people know him as Josephus or the Question Mark. I know him as one of the first people at NWA to make me feel welcome and invited. Joseph was a kind man and a gentle man, a creative genius, but most of all, a great friend and an even greater father. Seeing all the love and support on social media this past week has just reinforced that. I know the sudden loss is tragic and awful and will haunt all of us that had a part to do with NWA or in any part of Joseph's life for forever. But hopefully we can do his legacy some justice by honoring and respecting what he contributed to the wrestling world, what he contributed as a person, and just because we loved him. So thank you, Joseph Hudson, for coming into my life, and thank you for being an amazing person when you didn't have to be.
All right. Well, that is Maureen Tracy, and always forever #NWA fam. Thank you, Maureen, for sending that in. Well, we promised some other peers of Joseph Hudson, and perhaps there is none more revered who could tell you everything about the question mark and why he never got a championship match. But let's welcome to the show the champ, Mr. Nick Aldis. Welcome to the show, champ.
Thank you, guys. Wow, Gary. I mean, we're really going to start there.
Just had to. I'm just no. That was a joke. I jest.
I mean, between you and I remember going all the way back to season 1. I remember you and Rotella. I mean, we're just constantly pushing that agenda, and then it was just I could never walk away from it. I could never get away from your constant beratement about ducking the question mark, or indeed Josephus for that matter.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think Rob's head would explode if that match had ever happened.
It's funny. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because when I watched you guys the whole show, and first off, I really, you guys have really succinctly, described Joseph and his contributions, and you've really done a fabulous job of articulating what he's done and what he meant to a lot of us and to the fans. So there's not a lot I can add to, I guess, in terms of superlatives. But the when we were talking, I forget what you guys were talking about, but it triggered something in my head where I remember having a conversation with him about because it had become, the question mark character, just completely exceeded everyone's expectations, right? And just totally kind of excelled the original plans for it, which was, I guess, just to sort of be, it was really just some light relief and kind of a bit of fun, and to see if something like that would fly. And it was kind of like a lot of stuff that the NWA has done. We were willing to sort of give stuff a chance without over producing it or sort of overcooking it, right? And then it was just like, I shared this a couple of days ago. There was some footage of question mark going out to wrestle Starks and just getting this like gigantic pop, and I told the story on the tweet. I remember, because like I've alluded to before, like Starks was one of the guys that I had sort of gone to bat for and been like, there's something in this guy. So like a lot of the time when he was working, I would make sure I was sort of close by to sort of watch what was going on, to hear, to hear the feedback and stuff. And then obviously with Joseph being so close with Billy, Billy took a keen interest. It meant a lot to Billy that Joseph was having some success, with wrestling, because he knew how much it meant to him. And so we were both kind of standing there like watching this, and he walks out and just gets this, Road Warrior pop. And I remember just standing there with just like this not baffled, but this like amazed sort of smile of like bewilderment on my face, and turning to Billy, and Billy just had this exact same look on his face, and we just look at each other like, this is crazy. Right? I go, this is fucking unbelievable. But we were so like, it was just, we were so kind of pleasantly surprised you know, which is such a great thing about the wrestling business when you let something happen organically, you know, and you're not sort of over planning it. And it was like, man, how great is this? You know, that because look, it's no secret that Joseph and Billy were really close, you know, much closer on a personal level than Billy and I, you know, and so it's like it's tough when you're in that position because Billy, you know, doesn't want to be seen as sort of playing favorites or you know, going to bat for one of his friends, you know, and sort of showing favoritism. But at the same time, he's the one who knew like how much talent and how much there was to offer there, you know, and that he hadn't had a vehicle yet to showcase it. So it's like when that pays off and the response is so great. It's, I mean, that was, I can say, you know, that was gratifying to Billy on a number of levels, you know, like obviously on a business level, but on a personal level too. And that's okay. Like, that's totally okay. And, you know, for me, we've all got, you know, our guys like that in the business, you know, like Tom is one of those guys for me, you know, it's like, I'm constantly like reminding him and other people, like, you have no idea how good this guy is, man. Like he's, you know, you let this guy off the leash and he's going to tear up everything. And it's like, and so I have a little bit of that too, where it's like, you know, when you see him just go out and crush it and, you know, just sort of totally live up to his potential, you go, there, thank God, you know, and it's gratifying. But I will say that with Joseph, you know, I want everybody to know that, you know, you guys were talking about his, you know, him being somewhat of a Renaissance man, right? And having that ability to, you know, he's well read, you know, well educated, you know, had a lot of different interests, and that carried over into his contributions to wrestling. But you know, when you guys were talking earlier about Josephus, the Josephus character, you were kind of celebrating the fact that he was able to create so much depth in a character, right? And tell all these stories and really give some layers to a character. Like that's hard to do. It's hard to do without it being hokey. You know, it's really hard to get, you know, a character like that right for it to not come across as too forced and too over prepared, but at the same time to have those layers that make it really interesting and different. And that's the sort of thing that's really hard to do, you know, at any time. And Joseph did it twice, like with two totally different characters. And I have to say, with very little warning, you know, not a lot of notice on the question mark concept. It was kind of like, hey, you know, what about this? And like, I wish I knew more about those conversations about the early days, because I don't, you know, but it's like, I know that it was pretty sort of spur of the moment, you know, as far, and yet there you go, like Mongrovia, you guys, like the Mongrovian flag, it was like he just had that kind of enthusiasm and that mind, that it was like he loved bouncing stuff off everyone and sort of, you know, throwing stuff out there to see how people reacted to it and stuff like that. He had a fabulous mind. He really did. And I have to, you know, I'm not ashamed to admit that it took me a minute in the early days to really see it, to understand, because look, in our business, it's tough because, you know, especially with someone like me, once you've been around a bit, it's kind of like you have somewhat of a cynicism about you. So you kind of go, well, if I haven't run into this guy, then, you know, how good is he, kind of thing. And I dare say that I probably had a little bit of that early on, but I was, you know, open mind. I always, like with, you know, I think everyone can see that with, you know, with all of us with the NWA, we all sort of approached it with an open mind, and we all sort of said, hey, let's let's commit to it and do our best with it. And yeah, like pretty soon I started going, okay, like, yeah, I see it, I get it, yeah, and that's just me celebrating him on a professional level, I guess. That doesn't even scratch the surface of Joseph Hudson on a personal level.
I'm curious because when you look at the early days of like Lightning One, you got the key players. The big players were you and Tim Storm and Josephus, and Crimson was a big player in those days. Would there have been and I don't know how question mark would have played out in this, but do you envision that at some point down the road there would have been would Josephus have won the title at some point?
I don't know. I mean, because the question mark was like I said, it was. I don't know if there was. I don't know if they had mapped out a sort of timeline for the question mark, or whether it was just going to be, oh, let's try it for a season just to do something different or whatever. I really don't know. But everyone knows that it just took on a life of its own, and then it was sort of like. I know he dabbled a little bit back with the Josephus character, but I mean, look, anything's possible. And I know that, like, again, somewhat tongue in cheek, back in the Rotella days. I mean, Rotella freaking loved this guy, and he was, Rotella would always he was always lobbying for a question mark title shot, and obviously that was a somewhat sort of polarizing opinion. But, I remember having a conversation with Joseph about it and sort of going, it's not yet because it's like the time isn't right. But I was like, somewhere down the line, like there just might be this, you know what I mean? There just might be the right moment for it. Like, that's the sort of thing that you've really got to time just right. And all the circumstances have to be right. And but I was starting to sort of come around on the idea that, maybe there is like something, maybe there is like a little sliver of a hint there we could do something, so, and that's just a testament to how well received that character was. Because at the end of the day, look, I'm business, so it was kind of like, well, if like I said, if you can make it work, if you can get all those pieces on the board right where you need them. I mean, I was just thinking of the pop, you know what I mean? I was thinking of the sort of what if kind of, scenario. So it was like, it was definitely there. And, the thing with this business is most of the good ideas start there. And it's kind of like they usually start as a sort of little flicker in the back of your mind where you sort of go, okay, and you sort of trust your instinct, where like if that flame doesn't go out, then we'll have to like look at this properly. And that's kind of where it was. It was a flicker, a flame, you know what I mean? It was going on in the back of my mind.
I'm curious about him. Just one of the things that interests me is, Rob touched on you guys being at the very beginning. There's Tim Storm, there's Josephus, and then Nick Aldis comes in the middle of this Tim Storm Josephus feud. Aldis gets placed in there, and you guys end up you have a triple threat with like Crimson and you and Josephus and all of this stuff. But anyway, the point I'm getting to is that as things start to pick up steam, and we're seeing the news now, and I'm not, going to touch on this too much, but as the NWA is likely to reappear very soon, it's tough seeing these folks that have been there the whole time that, and then here's it's almost, I don't mean to make it a weird saying, but like a fallen soldier, like in this battle to make the NWA a big deal. Anyway, I just it's got to be hard as
I mean, look, and I want to make the point here that obviously in all of this, you know, the loss of Joseph Hudson as a contributor to the NWA is lowest on the list of priorities when you're talking about how sad this is and what a tragedy this is. But, you know, I understand that, you know, we're speaking to his fans, and we're speaking to our fans of the NWA. So it's obviously it's relevant, you know, on this, but I just, you know, I know that you guys all know that, but it's like, so it's not like I've been sitting there going, oh God, this is terrible for business, you know, like, you know, this is terrible for the company. Like, you know, it's like, that's not even really entered my
I don't think anybody
until,
in this room would
no,
think
no,
that.
I know. And I'm just, but it's like, it's funny because it's kind of, it's sad now because it's like, it's just hitting me. And during this conversation, do you know what I mean? Like that's the first time where I've really thought, yeah, God, that's really, you know, and I know I wrote about it in my tribute to him I wrote on Instagram, that, you know, just because but it was more about, I wanted people to really understand how much he contributed to the brand. I'm wearing my, I'll tilt the camera now. I'm wearing my Uncle Tony Fork's Waffles and Tire Irons shirt in honor of Joseph, because he produced that commercial. You know, those retro commercials that were such a sort of cool and unique element of the show early on, and such as almost like a cult hit by themselves. Like the Tony Fork one was, I mean, I had people, I remember some of my friends in England who were sort of casual fans at best, but they had checked it out because I was on it or whatever, and then they're going, oh my God, the Tony Fork like Waffles and Tire Irons commercial is the best thing I've ever seen, you know. And like Joseph, you know, that's like when I really think about my sort of experiences with him, my personal ones with him probably somewhat replicate yours, Rob, you know, in the sense of like we talked about, you know, our kids. And like I said in my post, you know, the last time I saw Joseph, he was in my kitchen. He'd come over to because, you know, we're both in Tennessee, and he'd come over to, I can't remember whether it was to borrow a piece of equipment or to drop off a piece of equipment. He'd bought one or the other, but like we were just hanging out in the kitchen, just like chopping it up and catching up, and at least half of that conversation was him telling me about all these plans he had for his son's room. Like, I'm going to get this, and I was going to go and see if I can find some retro something or other and like refurbish this. And like, and I just was like, man, you make me feel lazy, you know, because it's like, he's going to all this effort just to, you know, and you know, his face just lit up with the, you know, when describing sort of the stuff he wanted to do for Soren, you know. And yeah, that's yeah, that's Joseph Hudson. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, aside from that, you know, the real most of the stuff I think about with him is, it puts a big smile on my face, because he's, you know, he was funny as hell. Like one of our little, I'll share this, I don't think I've ever talked about this, but one of our little sort of, you know, with certain people in your life, you kind of have little jokes like that you know, that you just have with one person, right? Like you just have one, like a certain thing that you just kind of do with one person. But like, and this was, I mean, this was done with absolute love and respect. But one of our sort of ongoing jokes that we had with each other was we were always making old jokes about Tim. Like that was like one of our little things. Like we would just randomly, like he'd just randomly text up every now and then and be like, you know, it might be like, it usually involve a picture of something really old, and then saying, hey, look, it's Tim's first book, you know, or like, you know, Tim's first car. Like I know that for a while we had like a group chat going on with like with basically anyone involved in the company, and I'm pretty sure like Joseph started throwing those in there too, just like it was just this like, I think because like in those early days, like you said, Gary, with the 10 pounds of gold and everything, it's like that you had those three personalities that were sort of the focal point of the show. and they were all completely different, but they were all basically extensions of our real personalities, which is why they were, like you guys said, you know, that character, you know, I don't know whether it was one of you guys or someone in the chat, but I saw someone make a good point where they said, you know, a character like the Josephus character, if it's done wrong, you know, can really be an eye roller. Like you can really see it and you go, oh God, this, you know, if it's because the person doing it has to be able to convey it, you know, with their eyes and you have to believe it. You have to feel it. And the reason he was able to do it was because it is, you know, it is somewhat of an extension of the real guy. Like he you know, he was kind of lovably weird. Like Trevor Murdoch called me, you know, I mean, we had all kinds of phone calls, which again, a testament to how well liked he was. But Trevor was one of them, and you know, he was saying that, like, you know, God, he was so funny, man. He was like, he was such a weirdo in the right way, you know, like, you know, because he just was sort of funny, weird, you know, like, or he, you know, he would just, you'd walk in, you never knew what he'd be doing next. He might be like playing piano or like reading some giant book or sort of, you know, dressed in something, you know, crazy, and you know, and then immediately he'd have like a whole thing to tell you about it and whatever. He was eccentric, and like, God, we need more eccentric people in pro wrestling, man. Like that's what the business is all about. And like I think we bonded, you know, obviously because we both, he was already very tight with Billy, and obviously I've become tight with Billy based on, you know, us working together on this and really being committed to it. But I think we sort of bonded in this other weird way because we were the unique thing about that period was that we were both enemies of Tim. You know, like it was like, and his sort of rivalry with Tim was the thing that allowed me to then go off and do the Aldis Crusade, because it was kind of like you can't just go, okay, well, I'm going to go and defend the title now against a bunch of people, like forget Tim Storm. Like you had to sort of, you know, Tim had become like a huge deal, like with, you know, with the audience, and they were, you know, so it was like, it was perfect because now we had two great things to cover, like this one rivalry between Josephus and Tim, and then me going and defending the title, you know. And I think that's probably the bit that historically, you know, I guess doesn't get acknowledged enough, is that I think the thing that captured people's imagination with the NWA in the early days was the combination of the two. Like it was me doing the crusade and going to all these different places and defending the title and kind of documenting it in a sort of way that had never really been done before. But then you had this other thing, which was, because that's pretty dry. Like it's exciting and it's interesting and it's different and it's sort of got a unique flavor to it, but it can be kind of dry if that's the only thing you're doing, because it's a very sort of sports based kind of feel and a very sort of you know, serious, like it had to be. But so then you've got this other thing which is totally the other end of the spectrum, but still executed really well. And you know, I think like we all bonded, you know, those, you know, myself and Tim and Joseph, you know, I think we all shared a little bit of a stronger bond than a lot of the other NWA guys because of that, because we sort of knew, like we're the ones who turned chicken salad into, you know, chicken shit into chicken salad. Do you know what I mean? Like we're the ones who really kind of made something out of nothing, you know, or not something out of nothing, but we tried something really different, like, and made it work. And that kind of helped sort of create the foundation for what we were able to build on from there.
What's funny to me is just hearing you talk about him, and I don't want to keep you forever, champ. We're grateful for your time, but you know, you mentioned early on just like his relationship with Billy and Billy not wanting to play favorites, and yet we hear the like constant stories over and over again about like Joseph and what he helped create as far as the commercials, the foundations of the NWA as it is right now, these sorts of things. And yet he's probably, I guess, also aware of the line he walks with. He's best buddies with Billy Corgan. And, but, you know, to tie this in, I mean, you're good enough to give us your time here. And I mean, we appreciate that, but there were a lot of people we talked to, and some folks just they weren't ready to talk about it, or they didn't feel like they wanted to be live or whatever. We got some videos and that sort of thing. But anyway, the big thing that I heard over and over and over again from everybody, they were like, just know that he was too good for this business. Like, he was too friendly. He was too humble and nice.
That's true.
And it seems like this business requires you to have like some sort of ego, you know, like to make it, like you said, even coming in, that like, if I haven't run into this guy, then who is he? You know, that sort of thing. Anyway, I was just wondering if you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, well, look, yeah, they're right. That's the sad truth, is that you know, if he had been 5% more of a prick, like he you know, he may have been able to, you know, not I'm saying able to, but like that might have been the thing that, yeah, but you might have seen more of him, you know, in other places. But it's like he had no interest in that. He had such good karma on his side, you know what I mean? And yeah, look, I don't want to over, you know, he was very close with Billy, but you know, like I said, I want to reiterate the fact that, you know, there were other guys who were tight with Billy also, who didn't, you know, who weren't featured on the show. So it's like it was, but it was more of a thing of, it's a little bit like it's sort of like the thing you hear about a lot with second generation wrestlers. They have to sort of, sometimes while on the surface, yeah, they might have got through the door a bit quicker, a bit more easily than others. Like, they have to work twice as hard once they're in there to work past that stereotype of nepotism and, you know, sort of, and almost pay their dues all over again. And that was definitely some of the things. Not that you'd ever know it with Joseph. Like, that, I that's why I want to make a point to acknowledge some of the stuff he did. Like, that he did the Retromania commercial that I did, you know, again, which was like something that people loved, and like that helped me. Like that helped me out, you know, much more than it helped him out. But he just loved creating. Like, I remember when we shot that, we had a blast. Like, he came to my house, and he just put a big green screen up, and it was, I mean, I'll say it, I don't give a shit. Like, it was late. I want to state for the record, Your Honor, he was not partaking, but I was partaking in a little bit of herbal medicine. You know what I mean? So the next time you see that Retromania commercial, just know that some of the creativity was, you know, may have been inspired by some natural remedies. You know what I mean? But
that was not acting. Nick was just being himself, and Joseph filled in the rest.
Dude, that whole shoot was just done on the, like, hey, what about this? You know, like, and he would, but 90% of the ideas were his, and then I would just sort of execute them, like, however, you know what I'm saying, like, in my own way. And he would be like, what if you're like playing a game and like you can't do it, you know, or like, what if you did this? And he goes like, he was the guy who came up with the spinny. I'm laughing just thinking about it, because we did. I wonder if God, I'd love if we could get hold of that footage. But there were so many bloopers from that shoot where we're just like just saying all kinds of crazy, outrageous shit that you can't use. But and we would just crack each other up, because he would like shout something out like, what about this? You know? Man, I had a blast doing stuff with him, man. He was just, but that's what I mean. He never once went out of his way to let anybody know, oh, I did that commercial, like I came up with that, like I shot it, and there's a lot of people in this business that would do that, you know, that would be quick to be like, that was me, I did that, you know. And, you know, meanwhile, like, here's me, like, constantly getting people going, oh my God, I love that Retromania commercial, or, like, I'm going like, oh, thanks, and it's like, I'm going, well, there was some talented people. I mean, I can't say, oh, it was the question mark, because it's like, you don't want to destroy the illusion, but it's like that's who he is, man. And yeah, he probably was too nice for this business in a lot of ways, but he was taken way too soon, and I was debating on whether or not to touch on this, but and I don't, I'm not getting into it too much, but like, I just want to make it known, just in case there's any. I know that this is there's a tough thing about our business, is that a lot of the time when people hear about someone passing away, especially someone young, like Joseph, they assume the worst, that it was something nefarious or self-inflicted, and I just want to. I'm not going into any more than that, because it's not fair and it's no one's business. But I just want to be clear that none of that's happened here. Like, it was an untimely passing. It was just so sad. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Benita earlier, Rob. I saw Benita at the gym today. We train at the same gym, so like that was a sort of sad / happy coincidence, I guess, to sort of, but just if anyone's wondering, like, she's doing good, she's all right, she's she's in shock, but she's kind of like the rest of us, just still sort of processing that he's gone, and just like, damn, that sucks, it's horrible.
Yeah, I can't even imagine being one of the family members right now. We're doing this obviously close to it happening, and anyway, Rob, you had something to say. I'm sorry, I jumped.
Oh no, I just I just think about Benita and just the people that were close to him, and again, we knew him as fans. We knew him from afar, but just it's weird how wrestling is for when you're on this side of the veil. Like, how hard. I didn't expect it to hit Piper so hard. You know what I mean? I told her, and I debated about this because I was about to take her to school, and it's like, guys, like, how many of her schoolmates are going to know that she's an NWA fan, but it's like, they're going to know that I am, and somehow it's going to get to her, and I probably should tell her. So I'm like I've got this like moral dilemma on, do I ruin her? I almost kept her out of school because she was like, so, it's like, have you, I mean, I saw that picture of Donovan wearing the karate shirt, man, and it's like, when you're a dad, man, this is I don't even know. I'm just rambling here, but it's like,
no, I know.
It's like, it's tough. It's tough, man.
Yeah. It's look, the closer you guys get to the industry, the closer the more you'll understand that, like, probably you'll hear people say, oh, the worst thing about the business is the travel, or the worst thing about business is the pain, or whatever. And I don't know, I'm starting to think the worst thing about the business is going to way too many funerals for a guy my age, but
yeah. Anyway, well, sorry, man.
No, sorry, I'm being a bummer, but yeah.
No, I'm just we're not trying to, bring the real world's champ on and just like depress you. I know that's not who you're talking to today. That's, I just wanted to sort of share some thoughts about Joseph.
We can celebrate. It's no secret here that this is a heavy loss. I mean, we're all bummed out for people who are very close to him. And I had just been privileged to get to know him. I mean, again, we're just fans. Josephus never had to like talk to me. He didn't have to do that. I was content just to watch from afar, but he went, just like you, champ. You don't have to give us this time of day. You don't owe that to us, but the NWA is so different in what you guys do, and you're just, you're a good guy too. And Josephus is a good guy. He was a solid guy, and he was just just felt he felt a responsibility. You know, he felt like I remember he didn't like to give interviews, and we all tried to get him. You know, Gary tried to get him, I tried to get him, and he question mark was kind enough to send us that little recording for Piper. But I've got, like I said, I want to save this whole text chain because look, I don't like to talk to people, and I don't mind talking to you guys. But he felt like he hated the term mark. He's like, I hate the word mark. Because I said, I'm just a mark, man. He's like, don't say that. It's like, I hate that word. I don't. So, the fans are why we do this. We're not performing for ourselves. We're out here for you guys. And he was so conscientious, and that's just a rare thing. Because, we have Paul Lee's a common acquaintance, and I'm privileged to see behind the scenes at an independent show, and the personalities. These are guys that aren't anything. They walk in there like they're some kind of big deal, and the arrogance. And it's like, dude, don't at me with that,
Well, his was also something interesting with the wrestling side of things too. And I never quite got a handle on it because he was going to do the movie podcast. I do the movie podcast, and we would have conversations about movies and stuff. And he's like, he was definitely talking about like, I'll come do your movie show. But like, I just, like, I don't know what to talk about with the wrestling one. And
I think he struggled a little bit with a self-consciousness in wrestling, because I felt, because he was perhaps was very conscious to not come across as kind of self-important and for lack of a better term, like a mark for himself. He was always kind of like, oh, I haven't done anything, and and it was like, no, but now you have, like, like this, you're like, you got over here. Like, this is a this is a real deal. Like, this is a real thing. You've got something over here and can like run with it. Embrace it. Like, and I don't know. I think there's a part of him that never fully sort of grasped that from, as they never wanted to really sort of embrace that and go, oh yeah, like I think it felt to me sometimes he was always sort of waiting for it to be over, like not wait, but always sort of thinking, oh, this won't last very long. And we were sort of going like, dude, you've got this thing over. This is really like, when obviously we know it's been a crummy year for the NWA, but like whenever, and it's obviously I'll sort of pivot here and just thank everyone for for sticking with us, and keeping the faith. But like whenever that gets brought up, he's one, like the question mark was one of the names that was always up there, and it was like, I can't wait to see you again at Thunder Rosa, at Tim, the Camille, and the question mark. Like, it was always, he had become synonymous with NWA power, and I hope he knew that. I really do, because he should have known that. And if he didn't, then that's a testament to, like what we talked about, that he's too nice for this business, because he should have known that he was synonymous with this brand.
Yeah, this is really cool of you, Champ, to show up and share your thoughts. I know it's meaning a lot to the people in the chat to see you talking about it, and it gives the people an outlet to kind of reflect on that.
Yeah. Well, look, I won't take up any more of your time, guys. I appreciate you, doing this for Joseph, and hopefully it's directing everybody to the GoFundMe that Nancy, his sister, set up, which, by the way, smashed past the goal of 15K in like 2 hours, which is just unbelievable. So fair play to everyone, like for everyone who's contributed to that. That's amazing. And I know that meant a lot to Billy when we talked about it. That really meant a lot to him, and I think it's because he knew it would mean a lot to Joseph. Like he said, God, he would never have, again, like we talked about, based on his personality, he would never have believed that it would have perform that well so quickly, and now it's like more than doubled the target or whatever, and it's just still climbing. So unbelievable. So good job on that, everybody, and thank you so much.
Yeah, no, we meant to bring. I was meaning to bring that up constantly during the stream. Now it is scrolling by there. If you see it at the bottom in the ticker there, we created like a little link to it there. But definitely, last I looked, it's like over 30,000 now, and then the goal was 15. So
Amazing.
Hey,
great.
one last thing before you go, Champ. I had to mention. I know you've been listening tonight.
Let me out of here, Rob.
I just had to point out
He's
that
drained now.
I'm so like. I've been listening to, we went up to Bristol last night, my brother and I, and the last couple of weeks I've been listening to some of the things that we put out here in the last week. And I'm just like, in light of what's happened this week, I'm like, man, Josephus comes up all the time in our conversation. And it just so happened that we did a house call episode on your 10 greatest championship defenses. And as it happens, we rated the triple threat match between you, Josephus, and Crimson as one of your top 10 greatest title defenses of all time.
Okay.
So, yeah.
The plaque's in the mail.
That's right. The plaque's coming.
What about, hold on, what about, forget the plaque, what about royalties? I mean, you're doing it, making all that YouTube money, you doing entire shows just about me, like title matches I've had now, Rob?
That's interesting. That's a good point.
Gosh,
We've been
man,
playing clips today too, so we're going to be dealing with some of this eventually.
I would say, don't worry. Just in lieu of my royalties, make a donation to Joseph's GoFundMe. But I'm sure that you already have. I know. You have.
Oh yeah, I've definitely been there already. So
he's putting some of that Stinson money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he had that. Nobody's donating like Stinson donates. So. He Venmo'd that in from his yacht. So
he's probably the reason it went past that 15K in such a short time. Maybe he found it down the back of his couch.
Right. No, that's 100% in. I'm glad even the champ knows. So yeah. All right. Well, thank you for your time, sir. We appreciate you. Grateful for you hanging out with us and all the fans that are here talking right now and enjoying hearing your side of things.
Yeah. No worries. All right. Peace out, guys.
See ya. I was going to remove him, but
hey, I got something for you, Will.
They're a package deal.
Will, I got something for you.
What is that?
He's trying to hand it up to you. He's trying to do the trick.
Sorry. Oh, wait, it's over here. Oh, I got it. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
The glass changed.
I will say the champ, great job on the champ to bring up the GoFundMe for Joseph Hudson, his family. They needed the goal to hit 15 grand to cover expenses that were going to be incurred because of this whole situation. Beyond that, I believe they had mentioned they were going to throw into a trust for his son. And they are well beyond that now. But if you haven't already, we created that small link, bit.ly/Josephus Fund. But it's also in our Twitter. You can find it there. And you can just even type in Joseph Hudson GoFundMe into Google and you can find it there. There was an update actually since we've been on the air today from his brother. And I thought this was very interesting. So I guess I'll just take a second to read that. He did, for what it's worth, post up this picture here. And he says, I would like to express my eternal gratitude for all the love and support shown from my younger brother, Joseph. No one could have been more shocked than myself when I went to the emergency room last Wednesday night thinking I was going to be picking him up from what I believed would probably be a minor injury, only to be told that his heart had stopped and he could not be revived. This was shocking, considering anyone who knew him also knew that he lived a very straight-laced life. He didn't drink or use any type of drugs whatsoever. Up until that point that I actually saw him, I believed there had to have been some type of mistake. Nobody was closer to me than Joseph in this world, and I can honestly say the same is true for him to me. It's not easy to summarize what Joseph meant to me. He was always supportive of anything that I did and had the power to convince me that I could do things that I thought I could not. When my daughter was born, he was as excited as I was and always treated her as his own. Joseph put the well-being of his son before anything else in life. As children, we would wrestle each other on the mattress, pretending we were our favorite wrestler while imitating the commentary of Jesse Ventura, Gorilla Monsoon, Bobby Heenan, and Vince McMahon that we had seen on the television. When he first told me he wanted to go to wrestling school, I was at first skeptical, but then quickly realized he was a natural at getting a reaction out of the crowd. Over the years, he would let me know about all the wrestling legends he had the privilege of meeting and working with because he knew I would be as excited as he was. Even in the tragedy of his life being cut short, I can speak for him and say that he can be happy about the positive impact he had on so many people. I did not want this to be too long, so I will end it with a quote from one of Joseph's and my favorite movies, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. In Spock's dying breath, he says, "I am and shall always be your friend." I believe that's what Joseph would say to all of you right now. And as Spock is launched into space to continue his journey, Dr. McCoy says, he's not really dead as long as we remember him. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we were unable to have a reasonable public funeral service at this time. There will only be a small service for immediate family. After he is buried, we are possibly going to try and have some type of graveside gathering for him. I will try to give updates as they are available. Eternal love and friendship to you, Seth Hudson. So that is from Joseph's brother there. For anybody who hadn't seen that, I just wanted to read that. I guess I'm going to, just to try to, we'll take you on a roller coaster of emotion, I suppose. So a lot of people had mentioned one of their favorite Jocephus moments in the chat was from the culmination of that Tim Storm feud. There was an empty arena match. So we'll take a look at that real quick.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are looking at an empty impact zone at Universal Studios, Orlando, Florida. This deemed the site of the empty arena match we are about to see. Here he is, Tim Storm, about to make his way to this matchup.
Introducing his opponent at this time, making his way to the ring from the Mojave Desert, weighing in at 285 pounds, this is Jocephus.
Jocephus making his way to the ring. It's an empty arena match inside the Impact Zone. Hello, everybody. It's JB, Jeremy Borash, on loan from Impact Wrestling. And check out this photograph. My guest, of course, Sam Shaw. Sam, that is the spiritual advisor, and we are off and running already in this empty arena match.
Oh, my goodness.
Sam,
off
this
to a
is
hot start here.
Certainly been a matchup that we have seen building, and so much bad blood between these two, and this is the matchup to settle it. This is to decide who gets the next NWA World Heavyweight Championship title shot, and Tim Storm going to work on Jocephus on the ramp and right down the ramp, and look out. We are off and running here tonight.
Spiritual advisor.
Just seeing.
Given to Tim Storm at the hands of Jocephus, made pale in comparison to so far what we're seeing, and now steel chair right across the pack.
Oh, wow.
And now, sizing him up once again. And you hear the crack, the thud of that steel chair echoing an empty impact zone.
Retribution.
Oh, man.
Where's your spiritual advisor? You asked for this. I didn't want to give you this. Mercy! I didn't want to make an example of you.
Look at this.
I didn't want to show the world what I could be. This is what you want.
Tim Storm clearing out the first row.
That's what you.
The second row chairs just being thrown on.
This has been an absolute molly.
Pounds of Gold series, and we got to know him. We got to know what he's all about, a family man. And one thing we learned more than anything else through this. Well, look out. Chairs are coming in the ring now.
You want to bring in my grandchildren? I'm a freaking school teacher.
Have you ever seen a school teacher flip out like this before? And there she is, the spiritual advisor, whispering in the ear of Josephus. And certainly after we saw that period of contemplation and serious...
No, you don't deserve to call me that.
Look out now, into the corner with the chair. Corner with the chair, even the hair is stuck in there.
Oh, what's he got there?
What is this?
Salve in your eye?
Oh, it's the salve.
Let's
Retribution.
go for 100%.
We talked about the retribution, went for the salve in the eye and a low blow kick to the nether regions. Par for the can, par for the course. Josephus sets up the chair. Wait, not the salve again, right in the eyes, blinding Tim Storm. As you see the blood start to trickle down the shoulder of the former NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, and now with a chair set up in the middle of the ring, Josephus climbing his way to the second rope.
No.
Look out. Dangerous situation. Storm able to fend off Josephus. No. Josephus goes for attempt at shoving Tim Storm. And, oh, there's a chair in the middle, right across the ladder with a bad landing. And
Tim Storm's hurt.
Tim Storm, Tim Storm is going to need medical attention after that fall. Fell on the first ladder, rolled right off it, right onto the second ladder. I fear this is it. 2. And
That's
Josephus is victorious.
Josephus got what he wanted.
Josephus!
How on earth was...
Yeah.
It's going to be a
We're
party.
lucky we
guys.
still have a Tim Storm wrestling right now.
Man.
It's going to be a party.
Yeah, I can see that in the chat. People were just like, man, that was a big fall from Tim Storm there at the end.
I'm a freaking teacher.
God, that was a side of Tim Storm we had not seen.
When he's delivering those chair shots and everything on Josephus there at one point, like that was
also
a big
love how
deal.
the bottom. Also love how the chair said TNA. It was just a fun little, like on the bottom spray painted.
But yeah, front row pointing out Dexter Loomis doing commentary there along with JB Jeremy Borash.
Yep.
So there he is. Early days of the NWA. Just cool to see. Oh, let's see here. Let's jump to one more here while I'm on a roll. And let's go to Billy Trask, who is the director for NWA Power.
Joseph was a very warm, very strange individual in the best way possible. Anytime on Power during the ad breaks, you saw an ad that was like some weird fever dream, and you're like, what was that? That was usually Joseph. That was just his sort of humor and sensibility. And when the question mark initially debuted, and we heard, you know, how rabid the fans got for this guy that they've never seen wrestle before, like, the control room just fell into stunned silence. It was really a great moment, and it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. And the NWA is not going to be the same without him.
Whoops. I don't know how that started auto-playing, but
I don't think I can watch Tim Storm take that hit again.
we could just have a just a repeat of the nut shots that he gives Tim Storm there. Those guys, they never held back on each other. Tim Storm and Josephus. That was a fun part of the early days of the NWA. So yeah,
it's such a great rivalry, and the champ hit it on the head just talking about the polar opposites there. You know, when Josephus got thrown into the mix, and that was it for me when I was watching 10 Pounds of Gold. I mean, it was definitely I wouldn't call it I can't remember the word the champ used, but it was kind of standard wrestling stuff until Josephus showed up. And then I actually laughed for the first time. And then there was like this depth of character, and it was, it unveiled this whole new layer to the story, which we just saw with him and Tim Storm. And So yeah, it's cool kind of reliving this together. This is fun.
I think it's so neat too, like with 10 pounds of gold and the champ hit on the fact that you needed this storyline to carry on while, so the champ is defending the belt. You don't just disappear and now Tim Storm's out of the title picture. You've got to get him occupied with something. But you think about like when good wrestling is done, when wrestling is done well, that's it, man. You can't, that's exactly right. I mean, that's so insightful and intuitive. And I think back, and we've done like watch alongs of like, some of the stuff that Crockett Promotions was doing in '86. And it's like every story had meaning. Obviously, you've got Flair and Dusty or the Horsemen and whatever is going on there. But then you've got Rock and Roll and Midnight Express. You've got Paul Jones's Army against Jimmy Valiant. Even if a title wasn't on the line, you were so invested. And if there was an NWA fan out there, you won't find a single one that was not invested in the Tim Storm Josephus storyline, man. Now, for me, it always had championship implications because that's just how I'm hardwired. I'm always thinking about the belt and all that. But for this was important in its own right, just because of, like you mentioned, the humor, the intelligence, the philosophical threads that are drawn through there, the clash of personalities and backgrounds. Really, really good storytelling. Fantastic storytelling. You just don't see it anymore unless it's the NWA.
Yeah. Jason, Fight bringing up Josephus was the one who portrayed Bruiser Brody in his Dark Side of the Ring episode. So that's worth mentioning too. These opportunities opened up for Josephus. He obviously, I mean, like Rob had mentioned early on, was Josephus Brody. That was his in-ring name. So he wore that as a badge of pride, I think, like just his resemblance to Bruiser Brody and that sort of thing. I have to read one other thing here before we get too late. I want to cover this. I mean, this is a little heavy, but it is from Ron Gibson. If you go on Twitter, his name is Sir Absurd, and he actually developed a close friendship with Joseph towards the end there in these last few years, and he is very nice. I tried to get him to send in some audio of this, and he's like, "No, man, you've got a good voice. I'd rather you read it." And so appreciate that, Ron. But
you got to do it in the personality of William Flagg, though.
Yeah, probably not a good idea for this one, buddy.
That hasn't come out yet, has it?
No, that episode comes out this week, I believe. So
yeah, there's a plug for our weekly history audio show. If you haven't checked it out, Gary has taken on some new characters that you're going to want to hear. But anyways,
let's just say that we have a regular weekly call-in guest. So,
anyway. All right, but this is Ron Gibson talking about Josephus, and he just titled this Josephus. He just said, after a long, painful day of scrolling through all of the heartfelt words and remembrances on Twitter for the man named Joseph Hadley Hudson, or as wrestling fans knew him better as Josephus, and the question mark, I ended the night by tweeting one of his mentors, Dutch Mantell. Sorry, my wife and my dogs are just completely ruining the moment. I ended the night by tweeting one of his mentors, Dutch Mantell. I told him that Josephus loved him, that whenever he told me stories of his early days in wrestling, Joseph always had good things to say about him, along with funny stories. When I woke up the next morning, I found that Dutch had responded with, wow, he was student zero when I opened my school. Benita, which is Joseph's ex-wife, who we mentioned earlier, says, was number 2. Joe was a special type of guy, different, and you could feel it. Very seldom in life do you meet someone like Joe. I'm glad I did. I'm going to miss Joseph. Dutch hit upon a major truth about Joseph. He was special. He was different, and you could feel it. Anybody that has ever met Joseph knows exactly what Dutch is talking about. I have never met nor think I will ever meet another man the likes of Joseph Hudson ever again. For whatever reason, Joseph befriended me. Maybe it was because I was such a loyal fan of his that I have for years now kept Kingdomite status listed in my bio. Maybe it was because I wrote a fictional story that I dedicated to him, paying homage to his breathtaking creative spirit and unique sense of humor. All I know is that he was near the end of his NWA run, and we communicated first in direct messages on Twitter, then email, and eventually we even shared late-night conversations on the telephone. He was the kindest, most intelligent man I've ever met. He made me laugh so much at times that I was near tears. Nobody had a sense of humor like him. But what was most notable about him was the difference that Dutch hit upon. We would talk old school wrestling, his personal experiences in wrestling, but we also talked deeply about films, books, religion, and life in general. When I was asked to write these words you are now reading, I am still hesitant at this moment, even as I push the computer keys, to try to capture everything that this man was. What you and I saw on the screen when he was performing as a wrestler was entertaining and amazingly inspiring enough, yet still almost pales in comparison to the intelligence of the man behind the scenes. People often label someone a Renaissance man these days, and yet Joseph was the closest thing to a true Renaissance man that any of us have ever met. He could write, wrestle, act, create music, videos, everything and anything. During our friendship, I watched a documentary called Beauty is Embarrassing, showcasing the artist and the visual puppet character behind Pee-wee's Playhouse, Wayne White. I thought Joseph would have never heard of him, yet I told him that parts of Wayne White reminded me of Joseph's uniqueness. Joseph said it was the nicest compliment that he'd ever received in some time, to be my Wayne White, only to then show me a picture of himself with one of Wayne White's artworks in an art museum. Leave it to Joseph to always be a step ahead of me, a step ahead of the world. I thought he would have never heard of him. No, he one-ups me, and there he is, standing with an artwork with that devilish smile of his, that smile that said, I know what's going on. I know everything. And I have that picture here, by the way. Hold on, I will show it to you. It is this picture. And he goes on to say, I know that none of these words are sufficient enough to even begin to encapsulate who Joseph was. I could start telling little stories like when he hung out with the Insane Clown Posse. I could say how Joseph was a skater in his younger years and how he knew the avant-garde director Harmony Korine, having grown up in the same area, both videotaping skate footage. There are so many little stories like that, even ones that at first I didn't believe, but ultimately found out to be true, that the larger-than-life man, Joseph Hadley Hudson, feels sometimes more like a myth, like Daniel Wallace's novel that was made into a film, Big Fish. Yet it's all true. All these remembrances you will read or listen to from others will just be another fractal of the amazing universe that was Joseph. I am sorry I did not get deep into the wrestling life of who Joseph was, but even though it was initially what drew us together as friends, it was all the outsider art world that we both inhabited and appreciated that kept us talking. It was all the larger questions of life and death and everything in between that kept us going. But even as heavy as that all sounds, I never laughed as much with any other human being before. I guess that's why I'm crying just as hard at the loss of this beautiful man. I send all my love to his family and friends that I know knew him better than I ever did. I find solace in the fact that, even if it might have embarrassed him a little, during our last phone conversation from his vehicle, I at least told him, I love you, man. And he responded, you too, man. And that is from Ron Gibson. So a very deep, like I said, a very heavy one, but just the impact this guy had on and you're talking about just like these are fans. These are not even like his coworkers that he's dealing with in the ring. All right. So we will, I'll take you from that right here to my favorite personal Joseph Hudson moment. When he was, after he beat Tim Storm in the empty arena match, he had, my favorite thing he's ever done. I just always loved this. So here is his celebration after the match.
But you know what? Tonight I rented out an entire bar for the occasion of myself.
Thank you, Corgan. Tonight your name is Corgan. You're here to serve me. Now, if I call the name Corgan, you appear. Now get out of here. The celebration is just getting underway. Everyone that I need is in this room. And it's time to eat, drink, and listen to my spiritual advisor. So for 25 minutes, I was beating up Tim Storm all around an arena. Single-handedly, the biggest victory in wrestling history, the most one-sided fight. And you know who won? Do you know who won? Jocephus won. Hey, spiritual advisor. I know you're a pure person, spiritual advisor, but I was wondering if there was any way I would be allowed, spiritual advisor, to have an impure thought. Spiritual advisor. Hey, spiritual advisor. Hey, can you hold this for me? I want to lay out the path that I figured out. I want to lay that out for you, okay? So here's you. You can see these waves of bliss and wonder. There's you right there. Here's me. You can see the beard. It's a road that's going to lead 10 pounds of gold. This is the road. This is you and me. This is the road we're on. I'm feeling some enlightenment coming to me. Corgan, I want her to like me. You understand? I just want her to like me. You ever had someone that you really wanted to like you? We're having a party. We're having a party.
We're having a party. Man, I love that so much. The whole video is available. Well, it'll be available again, but it's all great. But those were some clips from that bar celebration, and I maybe have never loved a wrestler as much as I loved Joseph Hudson in that moment.
It's funny because, like, so I don't know about Will. Will's more upright, but I know Gary and I have both experienced moments just like that before.
Maybe that's why I just connect to it so much.
Identify with it, man.
Robert, you went Back to the Future and somebody just like hooked your mom up with somebody else. like you were just like disappearing.
But Josephus, man, you know, again, Josephus did like the champ alluded to earlier. Josephus lived a clean, healthy life, man. He was, I guess, for the best term I could think is, he was straight edge. You know, I mean, he didn't drink, he didn't use any substances. He believed in taking care of his body and didn't, you know, the last thing the man Josephus would be ever caught, you know, in the world doing would be in a bar getting hammered, you know. And he played that so well. It's so intuitive and so just reflective of how you know, naturally he picked up on things and stuff, you know. So, but yeah, we've been there, you know, been guilty as charged.
I love your view of me. I don't ever want to taint that. So I'll
well,
let
it's
you
not just a view, man. We have spent
that.
a couple of evenings together. So,
yeah.
I mean,
I'll just let that simmer for a minute.
I was spiritually advising you. Yeah.
I was like, Will, look, here. Let me draw this for you. Here's you.
Some enlightenment.
Here's me.
These waves. These are waves of bliss.
That's me. That's the beard.
This is me and you and Gary. These are the waves of bliss. This is us hitting.
Rob, what are you drawing? Waves of bliss. That's it.
What a great segment, man! You can't.
It's a new segment. We'll do waves of bliss.
Oh gosh, man,
love that guy. All right, let's jump to another one with one of his peers here. It's one of the last longer videos, and we can round this thing off with some other fan interaction and whatever you guys in the chat want to hit before we wind it down. And of course, we'll talk more about the question mark because I feel like we've danced around him enough. We keep going back to Josephus, but that's just we old school, and Josephus was one of the ones we loved. So anyway, here's one of Joseph's peers talking about him a little bit.
I've had a lot of problems turning my thoughts into words, so we'll try here, see if my rambling is coherent. First and foremost, my thoughts go to Josephus's son and the rest of his family. But I'm a father of 3, and I just, the news like this just cuts you straight to your core. And I see all these stories about what a great father he was, and I think that speaks more of the man than anything anybody could ever do inside or near a wrestling ring. Being a father is my number one thing, and for that to be like the prime message that's sent out about him, I think that just shows that he was definitely living life the right way. His priorities were in order. I knew Josephus before I had met Josephus, just because we had so many wrestling related associations. So his reputation definitely preceded him. But one of my favorite memories of him was one of the early power tapings. I heard a piano, and as somebody that has a hard time playing a radio, much less an actual musical instrument, I was instantly drawn. So I kind of wandered down the hallway, and there he was, just plugging away, making this awesome music from the piano. And I kind of just stayed back a little bit and watched in amazement. And at one point, he kind of weaved in and out of the X-Files theme, and I'm a big X-Files fan, so that that just double blew my mind. And he got to a point where he had kind of stopped, and I said, "Hey, was that the X-Files theme that you snuck in there?" And he slyly stopped, kind of looked over his shoulder, and said, "I don't take requests until I get tipped." I said, "All right, man. All right, that's fair. That's fair." And I told him, we had just a brief conversation about how cool I thought it was. And he said, I teach music. And I was like, well, I might have to sign up for class because I'm very musically inept. And then I said, well, I don't want to stop you. What you're doing is way cooler than talking to me. So go about your business. And he starts, back at the piano, and I start walking away. And I was probably 6 or 7 steps away. And I hear doon 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 doon, and he went right back into the X-Files theme, and I thought that was really, really cool. It popped me a lot, and and that's just kind of the demeanor he always carried. He would he wasn't an in your face type of jokester, but I mean he had a sly sense of humor that I really, really appreciated, and it's just, it's tough to know that when we get back to the GPB studios, there won't be somebody plugging away at that piano, and that's awful. I mean, it's sad, but I will say that from all of this darkness, the NWA had posted when they take the group shots, they say we are family, and I am so impressed with, it's not just the people in the ring. It's not just the performers that are the family. It's everybody. It's the cameraman, it's the directors, it's especially the fans. Without the fans, there was none of it. That's what made Power so special. And to see the response to this horrible loss from people that didn't even know him at all. You know, like I briefly knew him. I didn't, you know, I didn't stay at his house or anything like that. But for people that had never even really had that interaction with him to respond as well as they have, and to watch that GoFundMe just exceed expectations has been incredible, you know. And I think, like I said, it speaks to the volume of what the "We Are Family" mantra really stands for. And he's gonna be missed. He's gonna be missed. And you know, I want to thank everybody that's already donated, or, you know, that whatever anybody has done to try to help. You know, he was a good dude, man. And, you know, like I said, my thoughts are with his family and with his son. And I just, you know, I want to thank anybody and everybody that's done anything to help. I think it's awesome. And I don't know what else to say. You know, Josephus, you'll definitely be missed by a lot of people. And thank you for giving us the time that you gave us. Thank you.
Big word from Sal Renaro there. And so thank you, Sal, for sending that in. Well, guys, I mean, it's weird I noticed that everybody still calls him Josephus. Like, we know him as Joseph Hudson now because of the situation. But even as question mark, people still knew Josephus. Like, it was just, that was still his name for some reason. So like that, I guess that is a testament to the character itself, that like people just, that stood out. People still always hoped, I think even once question mark took off, that we'd round it back around to some Josephus action too, somewhere in there. You'd see something out of him.
Yeah. I mean, and he would, like, you know, from time to time he would show up and make some kind of peculiar appearance, you know, and just he had told me in our private conversations that he was, you know, he wanted to come back, but he wanted 2 more inches of hair. I think after the hair versus hair match, you know, the hair was very important to him, and that was just speaks to the sacrifice, the personal sacrifice that he made to the business, that he was willing to go through that, you know, and do that to give us that moment, you know. But he told me, it's like, I got 2 more inches and I'm back. So we would have seen him, but he would come through, man. He'd come through like out of the blue in like that Santa suit, or just, you know, yeah. Josephus.
Yeah. In this picture here, this is with Eli Drake, obviously, or I'm sorry, LA Knight is his name now. But also there pictured with him is Sherry Shaw, who was a stage manager for the NWA through this whole thing. And she and Joseph had done a lot of stuff together with Billy Corgan, like including a lot of performances at Billy Corgan's tea shop or his wife's tea shop and that sort of thing. And she performs under the name Sestaria, Staria. I know I'm never sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but I did put in a request with her, and she was going to send in a video, but she did text me today and said, I wish I could get my words together to say more, but I just can't right now. I want to say thank you to everyone who's shown their love and appreciation for Joseph. Thank you to all who have donated or shared the fundraiser, the support you have shown to his family and son. It's truly beautiful. I do not yet have the words to speak publicly about this, but please know the love and support you have shown my friend and his family means the world to me, and I am forever grateful. So that is from Sherry Shaw there. Wanted to make sure we mentioned that. There's another guy in the chat today that I don't want to skip over, who took his time. So we'll jump to Mr. Front Row here.
Hey, what's up? This is Front Row from The Nation Show. Just want to send condolences to Question Mark's family and all of the NWA family. Seeing Question Mark in the studio and having the opportunity to be in the crowd when he was just entertaining like no one else could. It was a special experience, and he will be dearly missed. Much love.
Whoops. Front row kept it short and sweet there, but I will say, he in there referred to him as Question Mark, and I know we've got to wrap things up as we go along here, but Question Mark was a huge part of Joseph Hudson, and there were many. Nick talked a lot about it. That initial pop that he got. I remember being in the studio the day he just showed up, and everybody was just like, it was a weird thing because everybody knew, like they just knew who it was, but everybody played with it. But I will say, I did also, another person I heard from today was Chris Killian. He's a comedian. He's over at comicbook.com, but he would do a lot of crowd interaction in between stuff at the GPB studios. And he was talking to me today and said, I wish I had like a ton of great stories to tell you, but you'll probably hear better stories from everybody else. I can say this. I'm an idiot, and I'm the one person who did not know that Joseph was the Question Mark. He said it wasn't until finally one day I walked backstage, and he took off the mask, and he was like, "What's up, Killian?" And I was like, "Holy crap, you're the Question Mark?" He's like, "Are you serious right now?" And so anyway, I just thought that was a fun little story he gave us, but it was fun to keep that up. I remember even when Rotel and I would be doing shows, people would bitch into the chat, "This is Josephus. That's Josephus is under the mask." And we'd always be like, "What are you talking about?" There is no evidence of this whatsoever.
And until this week, Piper didn't know. She didn't know that the two were different, and I just had to tell her. When I told her Monday morning, I woke her up and I was debating, and I was like, "Hey, I've got some really sad news. The Question Mark passed away." And she's like, "What?" I said, she's like, "For real?" I was like, "Yeah, he passed away. He's a man, and he just something really bad happened, and he passed away, and you just need to know that." And then we had to relive it 2 days later because she didn't realize he was Josephus. She's just a kid, and in our house we protect. We honor kayfabe in our house, and so I never told her that, and she eventually, she were older, she would have drawn the dot, connected the dots herself, but so we had to go through that a second time, between over the course of 3 days, and she's like, "Oh, what?" And it's like, well, sometimes, in wrestling, some people portray multiple characters, and this is what happened here. But yeah, Piper didn't know, man. She bought it.
That's interesting. Another person who was really close to Joseph was Thunder Rosa, one of our favorite guests here, and she's in the chat right now and just said she wanted to stop by and say she loves her Question Mark and would die to sing with him and listen to his crazy stories. So we appreciate you stopping by and sharing that, Thunder Rosa. Thank you for that.
She performed in Bristol, Tennessee last night. Wrestled Dream Girl Ellie, who we have seen. The three of us, we saw her in Grimsley, and it's a great match. She did a beautiful tribute to Question Mark. You can see, I think she's posted on Instagram and her Twitter boards and other things, but she came out in the Question Mark mask and the Mongrovian flag and paid a great tribute. We talked quite a bit afterwards. My brother and I got to go up and visit with her for a few minutes. It's just good, man. It's good. Like, we weren't going to miss this. I think being in proximity to somebody from the NWA fam was, kind of needed to do that. And she was just a couple hours away. So we rode up and visited with her, and she did a really, really nice tribute to him before and after the fact. And she was prepared to give us she wanted to give us a little video testimonial too, but she worked her tail off, man. And when she was done, she was just worn out. And I was like, don't worry about it. We know what you did tonight spoke volumes, and we know that you two were close, and y'all gave us some great memories with he and Question Mark having that little crush on you, and you guys singing, his song to you and everything. Just that was priceless. Some of the priceless moments, man.
Rob, I had these things, and everything's falling apart on me today. I don't know why the picture's not loading up for me. But anyway, so we'll work on that. We'll get there. Rob's got some pictures with Thunder Rosa and some video there, so we'll make sure to post that stuff. I'm sorry that I don't have it. Question Mark influenced a bunch of fans too. I do need to say that he, part of his deal was, fans like caught on to that gimmick, that style of things. And I do have some from those people as well. One of our favorites is always sitting right next to us in the crowd. It was the Masked Fan. He got lucky to be close to Josephus / the Question Mark, and carried on his own gimmick as the son of the Question Mark. So I wanted to make sure we got that in too. So here's the Masked Fan. Never mind. Hold on. It is. Everybody's sending me these Apple files, and they don't work for some reason. I hate this so much. I'm sorry, Masked Fan. I don't know. I don't know why that didn't work. No, I feel like a doofus.
Masked Fan is, of course, he has since broken kayfabe, and we know that is Mr. Troy that's in there, and he's gone public about that. And but you talking about between the two greatest fan gimmicks ever, are Sandoval, if you want to call that a gimmick, and Masked Fan. Masked Fan lived it. He lived it. He really did live it, and he. We followed him for quite some time. He has an amazing YouTube page and a series of videos going out. Go back and look at his stuff now, Mr. Troy. His Escape the Mask. Is that what he would do a series of mask-centered videos, and it was very public, public service, public information related to people who deal with depression and things like that. And he just was very brave to share with us and people in his fam things that he dealt with, things that he battled in his own life. But it's key because it's like the Question Mark was part of him telling that story. The Question Mark was part of what gave Mr. Troy strength and a bridge to communicate that with the rest of us out here in the fandom, and the hashtag NWA fam. And you cannot have, I told him, when he in our private conversation, he and I talk from time to time, when he decided that he was going to drop a Masked Fan, I was like, do you know what? When Power starts, Masked Fan's going to have to make some cameo appearances from time to time. It's critical. So I'm hoping he brings that back every once and again. But Masked Fan, Mr. Troy, one of the greats, and I know that just in my private conversations with Josephus, I know he thought the world of Mr. Troy, Troy Ridings, the Masked Fan, and they had a unique relationship, and it was really cool to see and watch play out.
Father, may you rest high in Mongrovian heaven. Always remember, karate. Hi.
I got him in there. There he is. Tribute from Masked Fan.
Very nice.
Well, I gotta ask, isn't it exclamation point? Troy said, no, our last name is Mark.
Classic.
Yeah, that's
I love that, man.
That's good stuff. I had one more from one of his peers here. If I could just, I'll throw it in there. It is right here. He'll hate me that. You know what? It's not working either. I hate everything right now.
Well, at least you didn't announce it and get our hopes up this time.
Yeah, you're right.
We're like, what? Goldberg?
Goldberg.
Hammerstone.
Hammerstone sent in a video.
Gary led with that one.
Oh man. Yeah. I don't know. It's not uploading. David Marquez also sent us a video, and for some reason it's not playing and it's not uploading. It's technology, man. I somehow feel like Joseph would enjoy this part of things. Just the little gimmicky, like, stupid part of things.
Yeah. Well, I tell people all the time, man, I never use any kind of technology. I have a whole blog about it on my website. I did a TikTok about it the other day. And I
remember this, Rob?
Yeah, I think you're.
Hello and good day. I hope you're all having a very serene quarantine. My name is Aaron Stevens.
Aaron Stevens.
And most of you know me as the first and only third-degree champion in the history of professional wrestling and the most naturally gifted performer known to man. But today I'm here to take up an old cause of mine. Enlightenment. And no, I'm not going to be the beacon of hope that I once was or your messianic messenger of morality. Today I am here as a humble servant of a nation shrouded in mystery that produces far more questions than answers. NWA superstar and my personal sensei of karate, the question mark, has ventured back to his homeland with a camera crew for the sole purpose of bringing the world the essence of Mongrovia. Each week, we will learn about a different aspect of Mongrovian culture. From art to science, government, even the space program. So join Sensei Question Mark and myself every week as we bring you Mongrovia Unmasked.
Oh man.
So good.
Yeah. WWLTD had it right. Should have said it via VHS. That would have, all of that would have worked if you'd have done that. So that's it. Well, guys, it is getting late, so guess we kind of have to wind this thing down anyway. I'm gonna try to take a bunch of these clips and put them together into like a more succinct like package so that everybody can see all of the stuff later on, just to access this and not the whole show if they want to. But we want to thank everybody for tuning in and talking with us and sharing your thoughts about Joseph Hudson, aka Josephus, aka question mark. Guys, if you haven't done so yet, we want to push this again. The money that is being donated to the GoFundMe for Joseph Hudson is still going on right now. They are well past their goal, but you should still donate if you haven't already. If you're able, anything helps. You're putting something into a trust for this guy's family, especially his 10-year-old son. It would, I'm sure that as humble as you heard, even Nick Aldis talking about that Joseph Hudson was, it would really be a testament to his legacy that when something like this happens, that we all came out like this and really his legacy, built something for his son. I think that would be everything he could have ever hoped for in life.
And remember too, guys, that we have something special here. Our community, this promotion, this amazing promotion of National Wrestling Alliance, this amazing sport. Don't take things for granted. Don't hesitate to let people know that you appreciate them. I'm telling you, in the NWA, they're listening to you. They see you. They hear you. They appreciate your support. And I'm just so happy that we got to, we got the time with the world was better because Josephus was here, and he enriched us. He enriched me. He enriched my kids. He gave us memories that no one can ever take away. And don't neglect to let the people around you know how much you care about them, and don't miss an opportunity to do a kind deed. And this fan community is the best. And love you guys, man. And I'm glad that we got to do this tribute tonight to a great a great man, a great wrestler, a great entertainer, and a great father and a great family man. And it was an honor to have got to know him and to have witnessed him.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I think that, I mean, you know, I talk about the Josephus part of 10 pounds of gold being what really pulled me in. I mean, just for me personally, that's led to me being a part of this great community. So, I mean, whether directly or indirectly, you know, Joseph Hudson as a person, as a creator, as a professional wrestler has influenced all of us. If you call yourself hashtag NWA fam, you're not going to find one member of the fam that's, you know, gonna be indifferent about Joseph Hudson. I mean, we're all fans, and we're all forever indebted to what he contributed to the modern iteration of the NWA, the promotion that we know and love, and that we have aligned ourselves with without regret. So rest in peace.
Yeah, I had so many pictures, so many videos. If you sent something in and it didn't make the live show here tonight, just know it was just it was tough to gather everything together. There was a lot of love and support for Joseph, and so we're grateful for that. And we will work on putting together a collection of everything we got into a more, like I said, a more succinct video package for you guys to go back to and look at. We just wanted to make sure we just had a place tonight, like a platform for everybody to express themselves live with a group of people who all just loved and appreciated. I'm sure it would blow his mind to see all of the people that strolled through here tonight, just in the chat, all of you people coming here, just a strict, I mean, we're over 2.5 hours now, and this has all just been talking about the life and legacy of Joseph Hudson. I mean, that is a tribute to the man right there. Just that we're not out of things to say. It's just like, oh, well, it's after 11 o'clock. Like, it's probably time to wrap it up for now. But this man, clearly, he meant a lot to a lot of people, and his legacy lives on. Rob, did you have anything you wanted to add before we wrap this thing up? I know that you just had a very inquisitive look on your face. So I didn't.
No, I wanted to mention we did have a number of people send things in there. We've had some difficulty with the Apple to StreamYard conversion and whatnot, but we did want to mention that Aaron Stevens sent us something that we can't find, but he did send something to us, and we know that he loved Josephus very much and was very close, and their partnership was unique. And, it'll stand the test of time. People will be talking about it, 100 years from now, about the question mark and Shooter Stevens. And again, to everybody, that, gosh, man, you talked about earlier about a fallen comrade. When I think about our NWA family, obviously we think about Maureen. We think about the Champ for sure. We think about Tom Latimer and Camille and Royce Isaacs and Mae Valentine, Sal Renaro, and I'm not going to rattle off all names, obviously Thunder Rosa, but question mark Josephus is there. Tim Storm, would tell you that they're at the beginning of this new era, this amazing journey that we started together to rebrand this company and bring it back to global prominence. And by the way, we got a world championship status recognition from PWI again this week, which is a big deal. But None of that happens, man. None of that happens without Josephus. And I love the guy. I'm so privileged to have been able to call him a friend here in these last few months, and he'll never be forgotten.
David Lagana had on his Instagram, and William Patrick Corrigan, if you go check out their Instagram posts about Joseph, they'd be the first ones to tell you that those early days of the NWA, Joseph Hudson was there. He was building it with them. He was a part of that thing. And so, all of this stuff we love about the NWA, it's all because of him. Like, I mean, he's a big piece of that puzzle. So keep that in mind every time you watch Power, and go back to those other episodes, just how much he was doing in the background. And anyway, all right, well, we're going to wrap it up for tonight. Make sure you hit up that GoFundMe. I can't stress that enough. Just help that family out. I'm seeing like people are donating still, and the family is already, I mean, they're so grateful. I mean, this thing's been created 3 days ago, and it's already well surpassed that goal, more than doubled that goal. So that's a beautiful thing, and it's going to a good cause. And just take care of somebody who, you know, gave you something you loved and appreciated, and this is his chance to that legacy pays off for him. All right. Well, from Dr. Rob at This Is Dr. Stinson, Will Martin at This Is Will Martin, and me at This Is Gary Horn. The show's at TIPW Show on all the things, and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. And we'll be sure to post something up soon, more of a tribute, like little video for Joseph. And thank you guys, seriously, everybody who hung out here and watched and spent the time, told the story, sent the emails, sent videos. We could not even, I had to start the show at some point. It just got overwhelming with all the stuff that was coming in. So thank you guys. It's cool to see how loved this man was. But as we always say around here, thank you. We love you. And until next time, enjoy your gravy cake, everybody.